Hello, my name is Ilya Kanaev. I am a doctor of philosophy in metaphysics and epistemology and an associate professor at Moscow University for the Humanities. It's the biggest non-government university in Moscow, Russia. At university, I teach a course entitled Philosophy of Culture. And I've decided to make the video lectures dedicated to this theme. My first question will be, what is philosophy of culture? As you may see, this concept consists from two notions, philosophy and culture. And I want to analyze the meaning of these two notions. I will start from the concept philosophy. So the question is, what is philosophy? So, what is philosophy? It is considered to be originating from ancient Greek language. And its regular translation is the love of wisdom. But what is love and what is wisdom? It's a very complicated notion which may have many treatments. That's why, if we want to use them in a scientific language, we have to give them more clear definition. And to achieve this purpose, I'll turn to their Greek origins. I'll analyze their Greek origins. So, the word philosophia consists from two ancient Greek roots. It is philia and sophia. And this is philia, which is translated like love. But what is love? In all modern languages, we have many words to express different meanings and different senses of love. For example, we may love somebody and we may like something. And the same situation was in ancient Greek language. For example, they had the word potos, which meant something like yearning, longing, craving, and so on. Also, there was a word agape, which meant friendship, cooperation, joint meals, and so on. There was a concept, notion, eros, which meant the sensual desirement, the attraction between two antipodes. And this root may be found in many modern European words, like erotics, erotica, and so on. And there was a word philia, which meant aspiration, natural predisposition, intention or striving to something. And I will translate this word in the latter sense. So the philia I will translate like intention or striving to something. This is philia. The second part of this notion, philosophy, is sophia. It is translated like wisdom, but wisdom may be even more complicated notion than love. We may talk about enlightenment, erudition, knowledge, and other manifestations of wisdom. But it's very hard to give a clear definition of wisdom. That's why I'll turn to its Greek origin too. In the beginning, the sense of this word was something like ingenuity, dexterity, an ability to find a new decision in a hard situation. In this sense, you can find it in Homeric epics. After it, it began to denote techniques, skills, and so on. And at the end, at the classic period, the word Sophia meant the science or a system of a knowledge. And I believe that this is the most appropriate translation for this word in contemporary language. So I will translate Sophia like knowledge. But what is knowledge? I believe that this concept may be clarified. What is knowledge? In the first instance, we may talk about knowing some facts. For example, I know that the weather is fine. I know what happened yesterday. I know what will happen tomorrow. Maybe. I can suppose it. And this is knowing the facts. An outstanding English philosopher, Gilbert Ryle, called this type of knowledge knowing that. Because we know that happened something. We know that something is happening. We may suppose that something will happen. This is knowing that. But this is not the only meaning of the knowledge, because we can know how to ride a bicycle. I know how to walk. I can know how to play chess, how to breathe, and many other things to do. And this type of knowledge cannot be reduced to knowing some facts. That's why this type of knowledge may be called mastering the skills. I have some skills, I master them. And Gilbert Ryle called this type of knowledge knowing how. Because I know how to walk, how to play chess, how to breathe, and I know how to read some texts in which I can find new facts. So, in our being, these two types of knowing how and knowing that, cannot be divided. And this is the meaning of knowledge. So, now I can give the definition to the notion philosophy. As you may remember, this notion consists from two Greek roots, philia and sophia. Philia I translate it like intention or striving to something. And sophia I translate it like knowledge. And knowledge is knowing the facts and mastering the skills. So, the concept philosophy may be defined as an intention to knowledge, or striving to mastering the skills and knowing the facts. If a man has intention or natural predisposition to knowledge, then he may be a philosopher. So, the philosophy is an intention to knowledge. This is philosophy. So, the next notion I'd like to consider is culture. What is culture? The most common definition of a culture is that culture is some sum of artifacts of some civilization. It's books, buildings, museums, some techniques and other things. But may we say that this sum of artifacts of some civilization is the culture? May we equal the sum of artifacts and the culture? I believe no. And I'll explain it. If we suppose some situation when all mankind will disappear, then the artifacts of humanity will be ruined in a very short time because of natural causes. If you look around, the trees are growing, the wind is blowing, and it's very hard to support the existence of some artifact of a man. We have to cut the grass, cut the trees, and do many other things to support our buildings, our other artifacts, and so on. That's why if there will be no humans, there will be no artifacts of the humanity. And therefore, we cannot equal the artifacts and the culture. The culture is another thing. Another regular definition of the culture says that the culture is the sum of knowledge of some population. But usually it's only the knowing the facts that is taken into account here. But here, in this case, we face the same troubles as before. Let's imagine the situation when the culture with high technology and big knowledges disappeared and was replaced by some primitive civilization. What will be all the knowledge of this ancient civilization for these new ones? Nothing. This new civilization with primitive culture, if they don't have skills, if they don't know how to interact with the knowledge of that ancient culture, all the knowledge of their predecessors will be the sum of marked paper for these new ones. And in a very short time, all the knowledge, all the artifacts of this ancient culture will disappear. So we cannot say that the culture is a sum of some knowing the facts. If we want to talk about knowledge as a feature of culture, we should take into account knowing how, or some skills. But skills may not be divided from the people, from the real human, real men who master them. That's why when we give the definition of the culture, we should talk about existence of real people. So, I came to the fact that the definition of the culture should deal with the existence of real human, of real people. And in this case, we can talk about behavior of a man. Then the definition of the culture will be connected with human behavior. But in this case, may we equal all human behavior and the culture of these people? I believe no. Because if the human behavior will be equal to the culture, then all knowledge about the culture, all knowledge about the human being will be received from natural sciences. But the experience of the 20th century tells us that this isn't so. That's why we should talk about some type of the behavior. So when we investigate the culture, we should talk about some type of the behavior of a man. Thus, the question is, what type of the human behavior is culture? Of course, and it's obvious that human being is a social being. Then we may say that the culture is some kind of social behavior of a man. Can we give such definition? I think no. because we know many other species, bees, ants, cows, and many others, which live in the community. But will we talk about culture of bees or ants and some other species? I think no. And I'll try to explain it. The society or the community of ants has a very sophisticated structure. But every role in this structure is determined by the natural laws, by the biological or genetic organization of this species. And they cannot change it just a bit. It's completely determined by the nature, by the genetic code. And in this case, we won't talk about culture. We understand that this is not culture. To clarify the meaning of the culture, let us examine two different societies. For example, let's take the society of modern town and the society of some primitive tribe. All these societies live in a community. They have social interaction between each other, in their society, of course, I say. Also, there are some other features of human behavior, of human being, which will be the same in the city and in the primitive tribe. For example, all people in both locations had some education. They have ability to speak their native language and some other things. So we face the situation when the behavior of a man of these two societies have some same features. And it's obvious that these same features are biologically determined. This is the specific features, this is the specific behavior of a human nature, of a human species. And in this case, we won't talk that this is the culture. But besides these same features, besides this same behavior, the way of living, the behavior of these two societies will be completely different. Their behavior will be very different. And I believe that this difference between behavior of these societies is what we call culture. And as a result of investigating what is culture, I can claim that we talk about culture when we have a deal with some difference of behavior between societies. Therefore, I can give a definition that the culture emerges above specific behavior of a man. And for short, I will give such definition. The culture is an extra specific behavior of a man. So, I gave the definition to the concepts of philosophy and culture. I defined philosophy as an intention to knowledge or striving to knowing the facts and mastering the skills. And I defined culture as an extra specific behavior of a man. So, the last remaining question is, what is the philosophy of culture? In modern European language, the concept philosophy ordinarily uses in the sense of science. For example, you may look at the European system of scientific degrees. We have Doctor of Philosophy in mathematics, in physics, in chemistry, and so on. So, may we consider philosophy of culture as a science about culture? I suppose no. Because the latter we know as a culturology. Culturology is the science about culture. Then, what is philosophy of culture? Following common sense, we talk about philosophy of some person. For example, we may talk about philosophy of Socrates, and in this sense, we can speak about Socrates' intention to knowledge. Then, philosophy of Socrates will be the manifestation of his striving to knowing the facts and mastering the skills. And I believe that we can use this logic according to the concept philosophy of culture. So, following this logic, philosophy of culture will be an intention of culture to knowledge, or striving of some culture to knowing the facts and mastering the skills. Of course, you may ask a question how it may be, how the culture can strive to something, to knowledge, to mastering the skills, and so on. I believe that this situation is real, and culture may strive to knowledge. And in my course of lectures, I will try to give an answer on this question. I will try to explain how the culture strives to knowledge. This is it for today. I hope you enjoyed this lecture and the nature of Russian National Park Valdai. That's all. Goodbye.